Council, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible.
Not at all. Madam Clerk,
Councilor Paull.
Present.
Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Councilor Janik.
Present.
Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Councilor DeMedeiros.
present.
Councilor Burke.
Present.
Councilor Milburn.
Present.
All present.
I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session. Town Administrator, Rhode Island General Law 42-46582, collective bargaining, discussion and possible vote on IAFF Local 1703, Tiverton Fire, label negotiations.
Second.
Motion been made in second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
We're now in executive session. We'll be right back. This shouldn't take long. Okay, we're back in open session.
Make a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor?
Madam President, I make a motion to move general business item 8A, Town Administrator discussion and possible vote to ratify the proposed IAFF Local 1703 Tiverton Fire contract and fiscal impact statement to the next item for us to just take up.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any discussion? I'd like to entertain a motion.
We're on the negotiating committee.
I'll do it.
Go ahead, I'll second it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the IAFF Local 1703 Tiverton Fire contract and fiscal impact statement. Contract will begin June 2025 and end June 2028.
Second.
And also, you should include the changes that would impact
Right.
this fiscal year, which was set forth in that round.
Whatever he said now. And also, all the changes that we agreed with the union that will start almost immediately. And we discussed all of that in executive, and it's very clear as a public. It's public if anyone wants to look at the contract later.
It's been posted since Friday. It's on the town website. All the tentative agreements, the fiscal impacts, and the red line version of the contract.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's done. Nick Barboza is here, who's the president of the fire department union. I'd like to thank the whole union negotiation. It was a rocky stop, but we did really, really well. And I think we all have a really good communication now. And everyone on the negotiation team. It was long and at times a little difficult, but at the end, I think we did it. So thank you. Nick, I'd like to shake your hand, please. All of us would like to shake your hand. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All set, thank you. Consent agenda. Approval of town council minutes. September 23rd, 2024, regular meeting. Councilor Edwards, the 5th, and Milborn, abstain, absent. September 23, 2024, executive session. Councilor Edwards, the 5th, and Milborn, abstain, absent. September 30th, 2024, special meeting. Councilor Edwards, the 5th, and Milborn, abstain, absent. Acknowledge receipt of minutes from boards and commissions and committees. Personnel Board, 1. Economic Development Commission, 1. Litter Committee, 1. Cemetery Commission, 1. Acknowledge receipt of reports. Town Administrator, Department Monthly Reports, September 2024. Town Administrator, Police and Fire Department Overtime Reports, September 2024. Acknowledge receipt of correspondence. Discover Newport letter regarding board member term by large change. Energy Facility Sitting Board, decision and order regarding Tiverton Tap Rebuild Project. Acknowledge final document, Ordinance 2024-0013, Appendix A, Zoning Article 4, District Use Regulations, and Article 24, Solar Energy System, with update to Section 4A and 6. Would anyone like to take anything from the consent agenda? Councilor Burke?
D1.
Anyone else? D1. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda excluding D1.
Second, or so moved.
Second.
Jumping the gun.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Councilor Burke?
So D1 is correspondence from Discover Newport that I don't know that any of us were aware. So they made some bylaw changes, but it also speaks to, within their bylaws, is a 2-year term limit for each town's representative to Discover Newport. We can't vote on this, but I think it would just behoove us to consider having our representative, Meredith Bauer, seek that is changed, because I think it's hard sometimes to find. And because it's a town representative, I don't know why Discover Newport would have such a part of their bylaws.
All right, so
Madam Chair.
we appointed Meredith, but was it for a term? So what was the term? I think it was.
Well, I think it says in here.
June 30th,
All right,
Just to clarify, it's 2 consecutive 3-year terms.
right,
But it doesn't stipulate that we couldn't have a break and then put her back on.
right.
True.
Okay. Any other questions? I entertain a motion to approve D1.
To accept G1.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Public comments. Joe Souza, police. Hi, Joe.
Good evening to the council. Let me first say, Jay, thank you for your service. I know you're not going to be here next season, so.
Joe, just your address, please.
My name is Joseph Souza. I live at 49 Hancock Street here in Tiverton. So, for the second time in 2 years, I was unlawfully arrested by the Tiverton police. Both cases have been dismissed. On August 2nd, I was walking my dog up towards the local Z, and I noticed that sewer water was pumping out the back of the building out of a pipe. I took a picture and I sent it to the zoning officer. The zoning officer contacted them and the problem was taken care of. That same day, 3 police officers walked in my yard. 1 came to the door, 2 stood staggered back with their hands on their weapons. They informed me that I was being willfully trespassed from 4 Stafford Road. 4 Stafford Road contains 3 rental units. You have the local Z, you have an apartment upstairs, and you have a garage in the rear, which a friend of mine rents, who I visit frequently. I was told that I was not allowed to be on any portion of this property. I explained to the officer that the person who signed the trespass order does not own the property. I personally know the property owner. It's a totally different person. I went online to confirm. It took me exactly 15 minutes to find out who was leasing the property, called the local Z, and who owned the property. 2 different people. I was only trespassed from going into the bar. I was not trespassed from the apartment above or the garages behind. I tried to explain this to officer, and he basically laughed at me and told me, "We got you on camera." So I decided to call the chief of police and explain
Joe,
the
you
problem.
have 1 more minute. It's a 3-minute.
I called the police chief. He refused to take my call, so I wrote an email to Mr. Cotta. They both tried to tell me that they could not do anything about it, even though they are the people who decide where the prosecutions go forward. I tried to explain to them that I was not trespassed from this property that I was in. I was in the garage that a friend of mine, Mike Almeida's Roofing, rents. So, long story short, I was dragged to court 4 different times, wasting my days, while the Tiverton police finally figured out that I shouldn't have been trespassed. There was no investigation done, and apparently these officers are not even educated in basic commercial trespass. This could have led to, if it wasn't, I'm never going to sue the town, because I know I'll go to the trust, and I'll be suing my aunt, my uncle, and my friends, not the police who actually unlawfully arrested me. So all I'm saying is, all right, I tried to get the chief to do something about it. He wouldn't do anything about it. We need to educate these officers. We can't have a policy, arrest them all, and let the court sort it out. Fortunately, I don't work. I didn't waste my time. But it needs to be taken care of. And when I called him, he should have looked into it, not tell me my hands are tied. Him and the chief are the ones that told the prosecutor to prosecute me and dragged me into court 4 times.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Open Space Commission, Garry Plunkett, invitation for council members to attend a dedication ceremony for new interpretive signs in Weetamoo Woods on Sunday, October 20th, 2024. Hi, Gary.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. I think most of you know me. I've been affiliated with the Open Space Commission originally in 1990 when they opened Weetamoo Woods. And Weetamoo Woods was secured primarily as a beautiful natural area, contiguous forest, a cedar swamp, and justifiably so. It is a beautiful natural ecosystem in there. But from day one, I started to learn that there's a lot more in there than just the natural world. There's a lot of local history hidden in there. And over the years, I also found that there wasn't much written about that local history. And over those years, since 1990, a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, a little digging. There's nothing you can open up and say, the Borden Brook sawmill, was built and so and so and so and so. Anyway, we're fixing all that now by creating these signs that give two fascinating historical stories. One, a freed slave that lived on 8 Rod Way. 8 Rod Way, that's a public way. How did he get away with living on 8 Rod Way? So the sign will tell you. Anyway, you're invited to come out. We're going to have just a little ceremony. No big deal. The weather looks great. Sunday
And it's
afternoon.
the
so-
entrance at the East Road.
the East Road entrance. It's going to be up a ways a little bit in the original trailhead. We moved it down later where Elaine Lee's monument is, right around that area. So there'll be a short little presentation, and then we'll go up and put the signs in and talk about it on site. So I hope you can make it.
Any questions from the
I
council?
do. The signs have those little codes, the little
QR
No.
box. QR, they don't?
No.
Okay, I heard rumor they did.
They don't.
Okay, I was going to tell people to bring their phones.
Yeah, no, all the information's on there. They're a pretty busy sign. All the people say, don't put a lot of words on there, but there's a story to tell there. So I put a lot of words on there.
That's okay.
Gary, thanks for your good work. and
Yeah,
your
thanks,
dedication.
Gary.
Thank you.
So I'm going, and if anybody wants to come to make sure I don't fall down.
I'm going. I'm going. I don't want you to ruin that new joint you got. Conservation Commission, Tom Ramotowski, discussion and possible vote to approve sending letter regarding underground oil tanks. Hi, Tom.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, councilors. I think you have the letter in your packet. Basically what this is, some of you remember we've had workshops on this about the dangers of these tanks. They're metal tanks. They were put in the 70s when the first oil shocks occurred by people that wanted to buy oil in bulk back then and not have to pay the increases. And of course, many of these are, again, they're not galvanized, they're not cathodically protected, so they're sitting there basically corroding away. We suspect that many of them are just abandoned in place, no longer in use. The letter is an attempt, though, to verify that. The best way we can come up with to do whether there are any active ones, which would be the ones that are most threatening our water supplies now, would be to ask the oil companies that do business in our town, are you delivering to any underground tanks? And again, underground tanks doesn't mean an oil tank in your basement or one in a gas station, which are regulated by the state. It means a tank that's actually buried in the ground. And this letter would request from them their policy on filling requests to fill a tank of that sort. And also, if they are delivering oil to a tank of that sort, what is the address so we would know that there's a tank there, it's active, and those would be the initial ones where we would need to make sure the owner has had it inspected to verify it is not leaking. As you know, a little bit of hydrocarbon can pollute water. It's usually parts per million concentration pollutes the water, so it doesn't take much. And eventually would like to update the list of tanks if there are any actives. I'm really, really hoping this comes back as negative, that nobody's filling these tanks, but we just don't know. So this is our best attempt to do it. We wanted to get your opinion on it, let you know that we're sending it out in case you get an irate letter from an oil company or something saying what's going on, blah, 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 blah.
Or
You'll
from
know
a
what it's-
resident that's
Right.
yeah.
These aren't going to residents yet, but it would
No,
go to-
but eventually.
but residents may be owners of these companies or
Yes.
whatever. So to let you know what's going on and to get your blessing to send it out. We will, of course, advise you on what we find and be back. We may need a policy on these tanks. We may not, depending on what we
Right,
find out.
just let us know.
Right. So that's why we're here tonight for you, in front of you.
Any questions?
Not a question, I'll make it. So I attended a conservation committee meeting when this first came up, and one of the things I did, after looking up the regulations and reading all 400 pages of it, and discovering that the feds they really don't care about anything smaller than 1,000 gallons in your backyard, which I found very incredible. But then I called about a dozen oil delivery companies, and they all, without exception, said they would not knowingly or willingly fill an underground tank. Then I called some title companies and a couple of banks who lend the money for property, and they said they don't even look into it. They don't care. They care about your roof, they care about your septic system, but they don't care if you got an underground oil storage tank in the backyard. So what do? Well, we can send letters out and get formal declarations
Right.
of this. But beyond that, if anybody in this room has one in their backyard, it's pretty much the honor system to acknowledge it.
Any other question? Mike?
Tom, what's the risk of any of the tanks that are dried up? Is there any high level of risk?
Probably minimal, but there could be residual amounts, small amounts of oil still in there. It depends on whether they retired it properly. They're supposed to pump that out and make sure it's completely dry and then either fill it with sand or
Yep.
cement, or could also be a cave-in type thing if it corrodes enough and, kids or somebody walking on that could fall in it too if it's not properly taken care of. We don't have regulations on this locally, so if we find out there are some, we might have to come back and come up with some sort of local town ordinance on this. But we just don't know. There are records from the 80s and 90s, but that's old. We don't think they're that accurate, and we lost track of whether these things are actually properly retired
Okay, thank
sometime
you.
back then.
John?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we grant the Conservation Commission the authority to send these letters out.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Discussion.
The fire marshal sent me a text saying that there's an oil tank registry through the clerk's office already in place.
I was just going to inform you of that. Section 38-163, registration of underground storage tanks.
Is that the state's list?
That's your ordinance.
There is one for the town. It's very old. It hasn't been updated in a long time. And the information on it is really questionable as to what happened. Did they do the right thing?
Yeah, but we
Did they
don't
just
know if
abandon
there's
it in
still-
place?
yeah.
All of that. We don't even know if some are even being used.
Right, that's
if we're
what I
up
was just
that,
gonna
so,
say. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Dave. Motion's been made in second. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Councilor Edwards, discussion and possible vote to send a formal letter to CRMC requesting immediate dismissal of the Bowen Aquaculture Lease, number 2020-04037.
Okay, so what this is all about is Representative J. Edwards, no relation,
To you.
submitted legislation
Yeah.
that was approved that would disallow any commercial development of the Sakonnet area. So that being the case, and since this town council has in fact endorsed that in the past, and we have submitted a resolution in the past about development down at Sakonnet, we should do it again. And although it may seem just symbolic gestures have their place. And I think that if we just keep on supporting the idea and making it obvious and just obvious to everybody, including CRMC, that that's how this town and this council feels about this, it just may affect their decision. So I think we need to just keep up the pressure and keep at it.
Councilor Burke?
I would just ask, I know Mr. Libby's here, and he's worked very hard on this issue. So if he probably has an update on where things are at legally, but also would like to speak to this, I think.
Good evening, Council. Donald Libby, 453 Neck Road, Tiverton. My wife and I own a home since 2008 on Neck Road. I am not a resident or an elector of this town. I live in Miami during the wintertime.
Good for you.
And my vote counts down there. I very much encouraged by the council's continued engagement with the Bowen issue. There are 3 groups, individuals, me being an individual, that have been fighting this since the get-go. We're the only official objectors to the Bowen application. The new law that passed, we have argued to the CRMC and the hearing officer that the application should be dismissed on various grounds. Number one, that the statute is absolutely clear that there shall be no commercial development at any time or the change of its natural state right now. We've met with some opposition from CRMC counsel on that. I will tell you that it was disappointing at the hearing, and I have actually had some pushback from people because I did not talk during that hearing, as I normally would have as a trial attorney. I love doing that. But after the introductions the Bowen gave to me, I wanted to stick with the issues and not be the center of the hearing. Tonight, the NOAA is having a hearing on CRMC. There are several people that will be there discussing this issue and the broader issue of CRMC. But from what I've seen, and I could be shooting myself in the foot because the hearing officer has not made a decision now, or yet, that they must dismiss this application. The argument of whether it's retroactive or not, I think, is clear, and I think Attorney Wagner at the hearing made that absolutely clear with the language that's in there. I will tell you that as a no longer formally licensed attorney, so this is just my personal opinions, that he's absolutely right. It was implied in the statute without having to say it was retroactive by saying at no time or at any time. That includes the past and the future. But even putting that aside, if anybody had watched the YouTube or whatever hearing on the video of it, the sole issue that night was not any disputed facts, because there aren't any disputed facts. The sole issue was whether the Bowens had any vested rights in their application. And it's clear under the Rhode Island law, in my opinion, so I don't want to get in any trouble practicing law, that they have no vested rights. They have no constitutional right, they have no statutory right, they have no contractual right, and they have no property rights. They would have a property right if they had an application that had gained an assent. Right now, they have nothing. So it was disappointing at that hearing for CRMC counsel to be advocating for the applicants who are not represented with case law that is clearly distinguishable from the facts and the situation with the Bowens that we have here, that there has been no decision by the Bowens on their application. And therefore, they have no vested rights. Here's my concern, and I appreciate Mr. Edwards bringing this to your attention. I think it's going to be more than a letter. It has to be more than a letter. And the reason why is the Administrative Procedures Act, again, in my opinion, provides that you can petition an agency and ask them how they're interpreting this law. And that's what I suggest you do. But in doing so, I suggest you also petition the DEM, because it's my personal opinion that the new statute gives DEM jurisdiction over the Sepauwett Cove, not CRMC. Otherwise, why would it be in a state park statute? Having said that, if you go the petition route, which I would encourage you to do, Because if you just write a letter, I believe that CRMC will just ignore it like they've ignored everything that's gone before, with Representative Edwards' efforts on this, with the senator's efforts on this. This should have been over already. Instead, what's happening is there are objectors that are spending a lot of money to protect this town. And I'm not spending any money, but I'm spending a lot of time protecting a town that I have property in, but I can't vote here. So I'm asking that you do a petition, a formal petition, and very carefully look at the CRMC management procedures on how you send a pleading in, because that will have effect, not just a letter. I know that the Rhode Island Saltwater Anglers Association has petitioned them under the Administrative Procedures Act and asked them and told them it was a formal petition. I'm not so sure they'll consider it that, because it was just a letter. So I'm asking and encouraging you to do more than just a letter, because I believe they'll just ignore it, as they have to date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll yield to a superior.
No, well,
I think we
right.
can do both.
We can do both, but we'd have to put it on an agenda and get the petition in. But right now, we can send the letter now and then work on a petition, or
Say a petition is forthcoming.
a petition is forthcoming.
Just to finish, I'll be happy to provide any services or time or experience I have to
Okay.
solicitor or the
Town administrator.
to get this done.
I certainly
Thank
can't write it.
Thank you. So the vote would be to send the letter and to put in the letter a petition is to come.
Maybe forthcoming.
Maybe, right, maybe forthcoming. Is that okay with everyone?
So moved.
Second.
Deb?
And I think that is important, because everything that I'm reading is the Bowens are still,
Oh, yeah.
they're still pretty active in this process, and they're still feeling positive about it, despite everything that's come out. So whatever we can do.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
If I could just add, I believe it's still the case, as you mentioned, that the solicitor for CRMC was pushing back on the state statute. It's worth mentioning again, the solicitor for CRMC is also the solicitor for the town of Little Compton.
Okay, John, we get it.
May or may not be a conflict there.
Can we ask the solicitor to come back to us with a petition in proper format?
Would that be part of the motion?
No, that would just
Okay.
be a suggestion.
Suggestion,
Yes,
consideration.
Yes.
yes,
Put it on the next agenda.
Right.
yes. Okay.
I think you're going to suggest that Solicitor Marcello do that, right?
There'll be a message going that way. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Libby.
Thank you.
Councilor Paull, update on DPW oil spill.
Do we have anything? I know that this occurred about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I've gotten calls on it. Nothing's been made statement. There's been no public statement made on it. There's a lot of speculation.
I know there's a fire marshal report, correct?
So there's an initial fire marshal's report. This project has not been closed out yet. Rick, do you want to come up for a minute? So I'm just going to be real clear and blunt with this. We don't normally advertise municipal issues that might involve litigation. We did immediately upon notice of this oil leak. It was about, if my memory serves me right, it's about 350 gallons. It was immediately contained. It was immediately dug up by, what was the name of the firm? It's on the State's MPA.
Yes. Western Oil.
Western Oil came in. They have a team. They worked with DM, was notified immediately. It was cleaned up. We had to actually take the shed down. There were 4 tanks in this shed. And if I can describe it appropriately, the backs of the tanks were up against the wall. And it was the second interior tank had a leak up near the wall that was not noticed. Ultimately, it leaked about 350 gallons from what we can ascertain. We took the shed down, took the foundation out, dug down about 5 feet, 6 feet, we have a pile of soil that needed to be sent out to a contamination site for, to be disposed of appropriately. We have not rebuilt the padding yet, although I did give Rick the approval today to contract to have 2 double wall tanks installed in the same footprint area, because if we don't use double wall tanks, if we went back to single tanks, we would have to build a containment wall with a singular monopole of the foundation to contain all the oil. With a double wall tank, we can do away with that because it'll be monitored.
Talk about the raw
We are following
tanks.
all the DEM rules and regulations to ensure that we can put this back appropriately. But it has been, there's no final report yet because I believe all the testing results have come back. We are satisfied. I think DEM is satisfied, Western Oil is satisfied, the State Fire Marshal is satisfied, and I believe our Fire Marshal is satisfied that the contamination has been resolved. We've backfilled and we're ready to do construction now to go back to report, to get it back in operational running. Right now, we are outfitting a temporary tank for heating purposes, and it's a temporary, and it is with the approval of the fire marshal.
Now, the trust
So
is,
there will be a final report when it's all done, but there is an initial report, I believe, that's been issued.
the trust did not cover us for
Because they
this.
consider it to be pollution, so, which, rightly so, they have a right to, their opinion. I do believe that, we're still gonna dispute this lack of coverage. And the funding, quite frankly, there is funding in DPW that we have not asked for another appropriation. We do have funding within the department at the moment. But I may need, when this is all done, we'll do an accounting for it, come back to you. But we immediately took care of this, to the best of my knowledge, and it was done appropriately with all regulatory bodies involved. There has not been a misstep, and we haven't done anything without DEM's approval and the State Fire Marshal's and the Town Fire Marshal's office approval to move forward. So,
John?
I have 2 follow-up questions, because I've gotten some calls on this. This didn't impact our ability to take waste oil, correct?
Yes,
has
it
at the
does.
moment.
It has at the moment?
Yeah,
Do we
again,
have
the
a
waste
time?
oil tank that we have is a single wall tank, and I don't want to reestablish taking oil in a vehicle that is susceptible to the same damage.
Do we have a time frame on when that'll be?
So we're looking for I believe, an igloo that will handle a double wall tank at the moment. I don't know if we found one yet.
No, we have not.
So we're trying to find an appropriate use, and it may be that we go to another double wall tank and just, we'll have to monitor how we fill it. It's not set up for like the old igloo was. So we're trying to, there are other appropriate igloos that are serviceable throughout the state, and we're trying to find what the state has allowed on a master price agreement to do that. But we also have to fall within the guidelines of what our insurer will cover, and that we're doing it appropriately with DEM. So it's a temporary stoppage. There are other, they could take it to other facilities in the state right now, but we are temporarily not taking it until we can get the appropriate equipment to facilitate doing it again.
Okay, and that leads me to my second question. Obviously, if this happened to one tank, are there any other tanks?
We took them all out.
We took all.
We just took them all out.
No other single wall tanks
No,
anywhere
because
outside?
No,
Okay.
DPW is the only one that has that issue, and the issue with those tanks, I'll be somewhat frank with you, that we just had the discussion about underground tanks. In 1990s, 1996, 7, 8, through 2002, the Budget Committee ensured that every underground tank that the town owned was taken out of the ground. Those 4 tanks were built in the early, mid-90s. Of course, they dated, and they were in a facility that, was exterior with no heat to them, and they corrode. I wish this didn't happen, but, and it was you couldn't walk around these to see and monitor them, and it happened it happened late on a Friday. We found it on a Monday when we came into work. So we don't know what time of the weekend this happened, but we took immediate action as soon as we noted it.
So one final follow-up question, I guess, for either you or the director. Given that this has happened, I know we're replacing them with the double wall tanks, and that's going to be great, but it would be good if there was a process in place to, inspect these on some form of a ritualistic basis, so we don't ever wind up in this scenario again.
The double hull tanks do have a way to see if oil has entered the second wall.
Okay.
So they have monitors within the walls. So we've done that with the fuel tanks that we use for our police cars, our trucks. They're external, they're in the parking lots out there, and you can see that they're concrete covered, but they're double wall tanks.
Okay.
We took all the tanks we had out of the ground years ago.
Thank you.
David, anything else?
Just the estimated cost so far, because, again, speculation out there is this is $600,000 plus.
So we're at about $55,000 right now in the cleanup, and it's probably gonna be another, I'm gonna say another 35 to 40. I don't know exactly, I'm just ballparking. I know the tanks are probably 15,000 installed. I don't know, we still have some things to look at as to how we're gonna, the other part of this is looking at some of our boilers. Do we go to a waste oil burner? It's, there are things that we might look at as we do this.
I don't
So,
think he heard you.
if we're gonna do this, we might as well do it all in one shot. So there are things that we haven't fully explored yet. But as far as the contamination part, we haven't facilitated. But I would say it'll be well under 100 grand. by the time we're done.
Anything
I
else?
would not count the replacement tanks because in hindsight, they should have been replaced a while ago. So I would not count that towards spill
They
remediation.
have to.
Well, they have to, because it's
Right,
I get that, but we're replacing them, so.
yes.
gonna cost, the whole project will probably cost somewhere in 150.
I don't think it'll be even that.
Well,
It'll
because
be-
if you say 95.
No, 55 is where we're at. Plus-
55.
Plus probably another
Right,
35 to 40.
okay, I'm
We'll be
sorry.
under- We'll be under
So it'll be
100.
around 100,000. Okay, not $600,000 that the room is.
Well, the other piece I don't have yet, and I don't know what the cost is for disposing of the contaminated soils.
I was just
And
gonna
if
say,
they're
we-
going local, it's not like we have to ship them to Ohio to a special facility. They will wind up going to,
Barletta's just going to put them at 610. We'll be fine.
they're probably gonna go to the Johnson landfill, but there's a different
goes
rate
your
for that kind of material. So it is what it is, but we'll, when we have all the numbers, we'll definitely come back and report.
So the contaminated soil's still there?
I don't know if it's.
That is correct. We
Yeah,
are not allowed to take it off-site until we get approval for the disposal site.
So, which has been a, kind of a, this is why this has dragged a little bit, because we can't build the shed until the oil's, until the
Yeah.
material's disposed. So it's a regulatory bureaucracy at the moment.
Like usual.
So we will get it done. It's,
What's that, Denise?
Like usual, it's a regulatory problem.
But
Right.
is that secured?
It's
That-
secured,
Yes, it's-
done per DEM regs.
right, it's on a plastic tarp, and it's not contaminating the ground. We've done exactly how DM required.
Any other questions? Okay,
Oh, thank you.
thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Police Chief Jones, discussion, possible vote to accept. What's the matter? He's not here,
So
but you
Chief
can
Jones
talk
is
on
in-
it.
I'm with his son in Boston, but,
Yeah.
so I can handle this piece. So when we had negotiations with the fire department, we agreed as part of this, and the council graciously approved requiring some PFAS gear for the firemen.
Yep.
What we did is we applied to the USDA for the same allocation, and they're giving us $24,000 as part of that.
It's
So we're trying to, obviously, we're trying to maximize our use from.
yeah, because we approved casino money for
We
this,
did.
so it's
So
subtracting
they're-
it.
Knowing that, they're granting this grant to help offset the cost of that acquisition.
Well, once again, thank you, Chief Jones, for another grant,
I move we accept the
and
24,900.
Chris.
Move that we accept the $24,970 grant from USDA Community Facilities to offset the purchase of the PFAS gear for the fire department.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? DPW Director Rogers, discussion possible vote to approve spending of approximately $20,000 to install a rebuilt transmission in the 2015 Mack Dump Truck. Is that worth it?
Yes, that truck,
Well, I'm just, that's a lot of money.
yes.
What would a new dump truck cost?
That
would be way up.
My understanding, it was purchased before my time.
It was.
That it was about 225.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of money.
Probably 3 something now.
Yeah.
I think the question is, what would it cost to replace that Mack truck?
I would say 250, 300.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious. I don't
No,
know what a
I-
Mack truck costs. I don't know what any of these trucks
So how
cost.
much more life would this give us?
Yeah, how much more, that's the question. How much more life is this giving
Year
us?
or-
Oh, no, the truck, I would hope the truck lasts another 5 or 10 years,
Okay.
but it depends on what else happens to it.
No, that's my question. Like, if this is only gonna give us a year, then this is foolish to throw this money at it.
This is one of our better trucks.
Okay. Right. John?
So, just to follow up, because I think Council President DeMedeiros is correct. We don't want to throw good money after bad. So, I mean, the rest of the truck, like we get the transmission in, the engine's great. You guys have been maintaining it, frame, body, all that stuff's good.
No matter what you do when you're plowing snow.
I understand
and you're in
that,
the salt
but,
and sand, the things rust out. But
Is it rusty? Is it rusting out? That's the
I
question.
would say no.
Okay.
But there are definitely components that rust out.
It's got rust on it, but it's not rotten.
Right,
Right.
right. You
This-
see what I'm getting at, Rick?
You can't see the road through the floorboards.
No, because
No.
there was when we
There
could
was-
see
Yeah.
Right,
the road
right.
through the
Long gone,
floorboards.
hopefully.
I'll never forget that one.
I consider this a very good truck,
Okay.
but every truck has its issues with rust. But again, I expect it to last another 5 or 10 years, not counting things like trannies or axles or something like that.
It's cheap.
So, our intent is, we have maintenance monies that we would put in the department to facilitate this.
Yes.
So we just found one for 224.
No, for 2020,
Oh, it's
2024 is 260.
260.
Does it have a,
I just
We
Googled
just
that.
looked.
It's a Mack dump truck, just to give us some perspective.
Yeah.
thank you, Mike. And we looked into getting a new tranny. They are not available from Mack at this time. They're not available from Allison at this time. And the part to replace that rusted off is 9,000 and change. So to get a rebuilt tranny for 10 is the way to go, plus maybe 6 to 10 to install and other things that might be like rusted bolts or any items that we find. That's why it's for 20,000. But do I think that's a good deal, considering that it
I
might be?
know how you are, so you know good deals. So-
Yes, and that's less than 10% of a new one.
Okay.
So just follow-on question, because again, this sparks some memory of your predecessor, Director Anderson, saying that the big Mack dump trucks that we used to plow were actually too big for what we needed, and we needed to be in like Ford F-550s. Is that the ultimate goal, is to replace the fleet of these aging Macks with
Well,
smaller, more nimble vehicles?
I don't know what Bill context was, but no, we like some bigger ones when you go into the south part of town or the northwest. But yes, we have expanded to 550. We now have 2 of them with capability of plowing and sanding.
Okay, thank you.
Right. If there's no further,
Madam Chair, make a motion that we approve the expenditure of $20,000, up to $20,000 to install the rebuilt transmission for the Mack dump truck, as requested by the director.
motion been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
And now stay there. Discussion possible vote to approve the time frame after Christmas beginning Thursday, December 26th, and ending Tuesday, December 31st, to be a pay-as-you-throw trash bag holiday, and to approve funding to advertise the pay-as-you-throw trash bag holiday time frame and the Christmas tree curbside pickup schedule in the Sakonnet Times. John?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the pay-as-you-throw holiday requests that was made by the director.
Motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Rick, you might want to stay for one more minute. This is put under my name, but it's actually Councilor Paull that wanted this put on there. It's discussion and possible vote to approve a resolution 2024-0016 to appropriate funds from the Casino Special Revenue Fund account to request for additional appropriation for DPW pickup truck with plow package not to exceed $65,000. David?
I was looking at some stuff and looking at the fleet after the last meeting, and I know the last pickup truck, the administrator had mentioned that would be directly for Director Rogers. So, does that leave the foreman or supervisor without
I was gonna ask
a
that
pickup
too.
truck?
The foreman uses the 2014 Equinox.
But it's not a pickup truck.
It's not a pickup
He
truck.
doesn't- he doesn't
And it doesn't have
but-
plow capabilities.
But I don't disagree with your request
Yeah.
here, because
Well, I would put this
No,
in here
I think
because,
he need-
transmission.
I think he needs a pickup truck.
well, it's, with what we allocated the last go-around, I would almost agree that if we were looking at 250, 300 for another truck, right now it's pushing it with what we allocated. I think we could stretch for a pickup,
No,
so
I
that way
agree.
we at least have two
I don't disagree.
new plow package. and
He actually will go out
Yeah.
and supervise what's going on out there. He'll push back corners, he'll do things, so having another truck would not hurt.
I think it would be helpful to have him have a truck. Wouldn't you agree, Rick? Look at his smile, like, I can't believe I'm getting a truck for Christmas.
What size pickup is it?
I mean, typically, the estimate or the quote would be for what, if, 250, 350?
The way it's written is nice because it says DPW pickup truck with plow package. It doesn't specify a 250, 350, 450. We'd probably start out looking at a 250, but we'd look and see what we can get.
As long as you can afford Ranger.
No,
If
it won't be a
that's-
Ford Ranger.
And that's a reasonable,
It won't be a 1500.
Right, and if it ends up being more than 65 or whatever, but you can always come back and
We'll figure
say,
it out. We'll go see what's out there, but I agree that I think it's an appropriate ask based on, because the foreman does go out and supervise the plowing.
We can just add it
Yes.
before we
And
vote.
if it is a Ford Ranger, we'd get a lightweight plow.
No, it won't be a Ranger.
That's just a little humor.
is
No.
that a
Ford
reasonable
Ranger.
dollar amount? Like legitimately?
Well, she just said if it goes over, we can cover it.
To this.
yeah, we can just
So-
add it to the present resolution,
So if we add it, that brings
which
the,
we're gonna vote on. in a
that brings the
while.
total on the second page, total appropriation to $2,377,765.
Where are we voting on that?
Well, we're not voting yet, I'm just saying if we add that,
Oh, wait.
no, that's what this
Isn't
is.
it, Jay?
No, that's what this
No.
is.
It's I.
It's I.
It's
So
I.
That's
That's
why
I.
you're there, because the first
You're
part
right.
is
You're
this.
right.
Second part
Okay.
is Dave's request.
Right, you're right.
Okay, you're right, yeah.
You're right, I just, yeah. So we can just add it to the resolution, to the, yeah, yeah. So Ricky, getting a new truck.
Thank you, and thank you all. If I understand it correctly, it's based on 65. If we find that something more desirable costs more, then we would come back to the
Yes.
council.
Yes,
Not a whole lot for it.
Right.
I just have a feeling that in future years, next year, the year after,
Well, you also have
a
the
chunk
list
of that gaming revenue is probably gonna start being more DPW
You
equipment.
actually have the list of vehicles. There are some that are gonna come to the end of their life soon.
Is that list here?
I thought we emailed it to you. I don't think
We
it's
did,
part of the.
we did email it Friday night,
Yeah,
or
we
Friday
have it.
evening.
So if you don't have it, I'll make sure you get it. 'cause
If it was the town
I
email,
got
that's not
it.
on my phone.
I don't know
So
why I got it.
I think
You didn't get it?
Why do I call
if it's the town email, then it's not on my
I
phone,
got it
so.
to my,
I don't believe I received that.
I'll get it out to you all.
Thank you.
Mike,
So I'll
you
make
have
a
your
motion?
hand up? Yes.
So,
Madam President, I move that we accept the resolution 2024-0016, I'm sorry, Town of Tiverton resolution appropriating casino funds from the Casino Special Revenue Fund account with the addition of the DPW pickup with plow package for $65,000, bringing the total appropriation to $2,377,765.
that's a motion?
That's a motion.
76.
$76.
I have a, that's a motion, do I have a
No,
second?
237, I'm sorry,
Wait, you gotta change
2376. So 2,376,765 is the total.
I have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just question, Madam Chair, since I wasn't here. I was actually unaware the meeting was scheduled until I received the backup. A lot of this makes sense to me. My question is as it relates to this plan implementation for $60,000 for the North Tiverton Committee. And what are we up to on the North Tiverton Committee spend to Weston and Sampson thus far?
So we had actually approved that 60 previously. This is memorializing it.
Okay.
But I don't know if we've spent anything
This
out
is what
yet.
we approved a while
Because
ago.
I just, again, we've done this over a couple of meetings. I think the initial one a couple
So
of years
I
ago
bel-
was
I
100
believe
grand.
their-
Now
I believe
it's,
their contract is 136,000.
okay.
So, and I do appreciate the question, because I think this will help clarify, and it might be something we need to do. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, the plan implementation is inclusive of part of the scope of work within Weston Sampson's scope of work. That's kind of,
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by plan.
The original-
When they put a plan together?
yeah,
No,
okay, so.
no.
So
So
the-
the additional money we put in there was in case we had other expenses related to printing, related to doing the public meetings, those
So
types of
their
things.
$136,000 bid, if the original amount that was set aside was 100,
Right, and
Yeah,
then
and
it's
then it
total
came in higher.
it
160.
came in higher, so I guess that's my question is, does this extra money, the extra 60, and I know there's things beyond the 136,000 that you just alluded to, printing and other things. Does that 136,000, does it, because it was clarified as plan implementation. So
So I
Is
don't
it-
have it here. Implementing the plan that they gave us as part of the RFP,
Okay.
not implementing the final plan that they come up with.
okay, so, all right, I just want to be clear, so, because we did get a bill today, I think it was $9,633, whatever, somewhere under $10,000 is the billing that we've received, but they will be billing us up to $136,000. The gaming money will, of the 160 that's available, all of that will come out of that, Weston Sampson's bill will come out of that 160. I just want to be clear with that, that's.
Right. And we may not spend the remainder, all that remainder.
Which would go
but-
back and
Right.
be reallocated. I totally understand that. Okay. I mean, the only other thing I would say is, I mean, the Director Rogers was just up here talking about putting in a rebuilt transmission in a Mack truck. I feel like we could spend these dollars elsewhere.
Yeah, and we have about $1 million left of the casino money, but we were holding off. And we'll have a second round of this eventually. And plus, we did give the school, we paid the school committee bills of like 1 million, but that's coming back to us once we get the reimbursement.
We just don't know what some of the unknowns are.
Yeah, so we're just waiting.
You know, if I need money for this oil thing, that,
Yeah.
you know, it would be nice to be able to have a funding source that without it, the taxpayers would.
So we did keep some aside for now. But we gave, if you look at it, this list is quite good. It's quite impressive. Okay.
Thank
right.
you, councilors, and thank you, Chris, for all your assistance on all these items.
Okay, so I need to vote on this though.
Yep.
So I have a motion and a vote and a second. Any further discussion besides John, anybody else? Or John, do you want to, you look like you want to say something else.
No, I don't. I'm just
Okay.
contemplating how I'm gonna vote.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Against? Okay. Council President DeMedeiros, possible discussion vote to approve Resolution 2024-0017 to update the membership list and update project completion no later than December 31st, 2025 for the Town Farm Renovation. The list has been updated as of today. And there are 3 vacancies, you can see. And we have the disbanded date moved to December 31st, 2025. Any questions? Entertain a motion.
Move approval of resolution number 2024-0017 that updates the membership list and updates the project completion date to no later than December 31, 2025 for the Town Farm Renovation Committee.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor? Councilor DeMedeiros, discussion possible vote to approve an amendment to Resolution 2023-0018 to extend the due date for the committee report to December 31st, 2025 for the Public Safety Complex Committee. Any questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion to update the Public Safety Complex Committee and just note that the entire committee just could not find dates to get together. And try as
Well,
the
it's
chief might
difficult.
have, it's been difficult. So we did tour a couple of facilities. We haven't been able to get through the rest, and scheduling with other facilities out of town is problematic.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Council President DeMedeiros, resignation acceptance of Christopher Cotta as Town Administrator, and approval of funds to advertise for Town Administrator. I'd like to make a motion to accept Christopher Cotta's resignation as Town Administrator with regret, thank him for his service, and also say that about 5 years ago, I called him in Florida, and I asked him to be interim, and he came back to do this for us.
A long intro.
And he was here interim for 5 years, and he has helped us do a lot of great advancements. And he is very good at budgets, and he's been what helped us with all the casino fund policies and how we're doing it. And I'd like to thank him for his service. And negotiations, God only knows. We almost all resigned during that. So I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. I'm not happy that I have to do it.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? It has been a long 5 months. Motion been made. No, it was 5 months. He said he was coming to do it. Motion been made in second. All those in favor? Thank you.
Before we go to that,
Yes.
I don't know. Were you folks
Well,
here
no,
for
I have to
something
approval of
specific?
funds. What were you here for?
I'm here inquiring about when the waterfront zoning is going to be a topic that you discussed.
Okay.
I was
The-
under the impression it would be today, and I just recently found out it was
Yeah.
canceled.
Well, it wasn't on the agenda and it was canceled. The planning board has to redo their open meeting, their open session. It was not properly advertised, and we are going to correct that. And once they get done and they make a recommendation again, they'll bring it to us, and then we'll have the meeting, but we have to advertise it also.
Yeah,
So-
what was the issue with the advertisement? I think it's supposed to be 3 weeks public advertisement.
No. Some of the abutters were not notified that should have been notified.
All the residences were properly notified. There were some commercial properties that were mistakenly, they were gathered, but mistakenly were not merged
Yeah.
in the
Okay.
mailing, so they were never formally notified. So when that was noticed, the immediate action was that this hearing had to be redone by the planning board. It had to be re-advertised, and it will go out again, and it'll be done appropriately. There was a corrective action to it. And then they just couldn't move forward with it until everybody was.
It will be a different body here
Do you
when this comes up
foresee
again.
that being taken care of by the end of the year?
Yes, probably.
Depends on, was it
Well,
timing, right?
yes.
It's 3 yeah.
It would be by the end of the year. It's probably going to be, by the time it reaches us, will probably be the end of November, beginning of December.
Okay.
Do you agree, Doug? Somewhere in that, but
Okay,
yes.
that's encouraging, thank you.
Okay, all right. But I still had one more to L that I have to talk about. Approval of funds to advertise for town administrator, go out for search. And we need the advertisement. I think the salary range should be 100 to 120. I think we will get more applicants if we do it that way for now. And then depending on their experience and what we think, we can negotiate a salary. But I think we should put it to 100 to 120. And Chris has not accepted a raise he didn't want to accept the last raise, and we didn't give him a raise this time. So I think we should go to 100 to 120.
I know that he has not.
What do you think, Chris? 100 to 120 would be I mean, town administrators are being paid more than 120, I believe. A lot more.
We gotta be competitive.
I mean, we could go higher.
I would just put it out there, leave it to be negotiated. I wouldn't even put a salary amount.
Okay.
And I-
You want to do it that way?
Right,
That way
because
you at
I,
least find out what they're asking for and
Well, I just wanted to bring up that we had to do something about that
I
salary.
agree, but looking at the neighboring towns, 120 is way low.
Well, we know it's way low, but Chris wasn't making 120.
it is what, believe me, I would never ask. I know that, Middletown just went to 175, Portsmouth is 180. They are what they are. I mean.
Portsmouth at 185.
Yeah, well, it's,
So we'll put salary negotiable.
yeah, I would just put negotiable and see, it, and, put it in your specs as to, what is your expectation? I mean, it is what it is, but.
We have an advertisement. We have an old advertisement, so we need to look at that and see if that's up to date. And then we'll do it from there. If it's all right, I'll work with Joan on that.
And if you don't find somebody you're happy with, then let me know if I have to stick around longer.
So
Chris, we haven't found anybody.
I'll say 5 months more and we'll,
We have no applicants.
okay. So,
You'll get applicants.
so
If you
Chris,
put it at 1 to 120, you won't.
Chris's last day will be May,
December.
May.
Another 5 months.
Do I have a vote for that? All right, December 3rd. But we'll see what happens. This is a very long process. I've been through it a few times now. It's a very long process. And I think we should start thinking about an interim town administrator. I do know that it gets very difficult to get a lot of applicants in December, like you're talking over Christmas. And a lot of people aren't really paying attention to getting a new job. So, like, we will have to talk about all of this, and if Chris's real date will be December 3rd, or who we're gonna have on board to help.
Well, people buy new houses in December and January, but they don't change jobs.
Because this council, more than likely, this council will be
The way it's,
here
the way it's,
around December 3rd, because last time we weren't sworn until, like, December 5th.
it depends on when the election results are certified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
we'll,
mean, it could be a new council for the second meeting in November.
I've never seen that
It may not
happen.
have anything to do with local, it could be the state issue too.
Yeah.
I've never seen that happen. It's always been the last meeting in November or the first meeting in December. All right, so,
Move approval of funds to advertise for town administrator.
Second.
motion's been made and second. All those in favor? I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session. Town Administrator, Rhode Island General Law 42, 46585, discussion related to the acquisition or lease or purchase of real property for public purposes where the early disclosure would be detrimental to the public interest.
So move.
Second.
Motion been made and second. David?
Yes.
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 Thank you. I'm taking a couple minutes.